Kanto. In 1996, Pokémon was a generational hit. Red and Green landed in Japan first, and when it arrived in the West in 1998, everything changed. These games were the start of a new generation of gamers. You weren't meant to catch all 151 Pokémon alone. You needed to trade, link up with friends, and even choose between two versions. That concept was like nothing ever seen before. They were bare bones by today's standards, black and white sprites, simple turn-based battles, and clunky menus. But none of that mattered. The world felt massive, mysterious, and alive. Lavender Town gave you chills, and catching Mew felt like a playground conspiracy. By the time Pokemon Yellow came out, with Pikachu trailing behind you, it was already solidified as the biggest thing on the planet. The anime, the cards, the toys, they were everywhere. But it all started here, on a chunky gray Game Boy, with a link cable and the dream of being the very best. Johto. Red and Blue started the craze. Gold and Silver brought it to the next level. Released in 1999 in Japan and 2000 worldwide, the second generation was unforgettable. For the first time, Pokemon felt like a true world. Johto introduced real-time mechanics with a day and night cycle, breeding, shiny Pokemon, and even the concept of Pokemon genders. It was everything fans didn't know they needed. But what really blew minds? After beating the Johto League, the game lets you go back to Kanto. That twist was unheard of. 2 full regions, 16 badges, a rematch with Red himself at the top of Mount Silver. It was fan service on a level that's never quite been replicated. Gold and Silver felt like the perfect sequel, bigger, deeper, and packed with surprises. Even now, many fans consider Johto the peak of the franchise, and with Pokemon Crystal polishing it all into one definitive version, Gen 2 cemented the idea that Pokemon wasn't going anywhere. Hoenn. Pokemon's third generation marked a turning point and a fracture in the fanbase. Ruby and Sapphire launched in Japan in 2002, then worldwide in 2003, debuting on the Game Boy Advance with vibrant color palettes and a whole new region, Hoenn. But this wasn't just a graphical upgrade. Gen 3 overhauled the game's engine, ditching compatibility with older titles and forcing players to start fresh. That meant no way to bring your Gen 1 or 2 Pokemon forward, a decision that split the community. Still, the games introduced huge features, natures, abilities, double battles, and more. Hoenn was tropical, bold, and experimental. You could dive underwater, battle secret bases, and even see Pokemon contests for the first time. Yet despite its innovations, some fans just couldn't forgive the missing national dex, sparking the first real wave of backlash. Ruby and Sapphire were polarizing, but they laid the foundation for the competitive scene and pushed Pokemon into its modern era. Sinnoh. With the jump to Nintendo DS in 2006, Pokemon entered a new era, and it finally felt futuristic. Diamond and Pearl were the first mainline games to support online battling and trading, unlocking a global Pokédex like never before. The world of Sinnoh was snowy and filled with deep lore, but the biggest leap was under the hood. Gen 4 refined the battle system by splitting moves into physical and special categories based on what the move did, not its type. This completely reshaped competitive play. It also introduced Wi-Fi features, the global trade station, and the Pokétech, turning the DS touchscreen into a multi-tool for trainers. Platinum soon followed, polishing the region's pacing and adding the fan-favorite Distortion World. Then came Heart Gold and Soul Silver, remakes that some consider the best in the series. These games were breathtaking and refreshing to longtime fans. With smooth sprites, rich post-game, and full DS integration, Gen 4 felt like Pokemon growing up without leaving its roots behind. Unova. In 2010, Pokemon took a risk, and not everyone was ready for it. Black and White launched with an entirely new Pokédex. No Pikachu, no Charizard, just over 150 brand new creatures, forcing players to experience Unova without nostalgia as a crutch. It was a bold move, and it worked. Gen 5 is often praised for its storytelling. This was the first time the series tackled themes like morality, freedom, and the ethics of Pokemon battles. N wasn't a traditional villain. He was a tragic figure who genuinely believed Pokemon should be free. The region itself was based in New York City, breaking away from Japan-inspired settings. Mechanically, Gen 5 refined battle animations, introduced seasonal cycles, and pushed sprite art to its peak. Then came Black 2 and White 2, the only true sequels in Pokemon history. New cities, expanded stories, and one of the best post-games in the series. While it was underappreciated at launch, Gen 5 has aged into a favorite, and many now see it as Pokemon's most underrated era. Kalos. By 2013, Pokemon needed a spark, and X and Y delivered one in 3D. For the first time, mainline Pokemon battles broke free from sprites. Fully modeled Pokemon, dynamic animations, and cinematic camera angles made Kalos feel like a fresh start. Hype was off the charts. Nintendo even launched X and Y worldwide on the same day, a historic first for the series. Kalos introduced fairy types to rebalance the overpowered dragon meta and added mega evolutions, giving classic Pokemon a temporary power boost and a serious cool factor. Online battles were smoother, customization was finally here, and the world had an elegance that made it stand out. But beneath the surface, fans started noticing cracks. The story felt thin, the region was small, and post-game content was almost non-existent. X and Y sold incredibly well but left players hungry for more substance. It was the era of style over depth, and while Kalos introduced powerful ideas, it also marked the moment when some fans began questioning whether Pokemon was losing its soul. Alola. Pokemon Sun and Moon dropped in 2016 and immediately threw out the rulebook. No gyms, no HMs, no Pokemon League at the start. Set in the tropical Alola region, Gen 7 was more like a narrative-driven RPG than a traditional Pokemon journey. Instead of gyms, players faced island trials, puzzles, scavenger hunts, and boss battles with totem Pokemon. It was different. Some loved the shakeup, others missed the classic formula. But there's no denying Game Freak swung for the fences. The story had more cutscenes, more character arcs, and arguably the most fleshed out villain in the franchise, Musamine. Then there were Ultra Beasts, creatures from another dimension that blurred the line between Pokemon and alien invaders. And of course, Z-moves. Flashy, one-time attacks that added spectacle but stirred mixed feelings. Ultra Sun and Ultra Moon tweaked things, but fans still debated whether Gen 7 was a step forward or a detour. Alola was a bold experiment, one that challenged tradition, but also signaled Pokemon was struggling to evolve in a way that pleased everyone. Galar. When Sword and Shield launched in 2019, Pokemon faced its biggest backlash yet. Fans were excited for the first mainline games on a home console, but that excitement quickly soared. Game Freak announced that not all Pokemon would be included. The National Dex was gone. Combined with reused animations, simplified graphics, and limited exploration, fans accused the franchise of cutting corners. Hashtags like Game Freak lied trended worldwide. But controversy aside, Galar still made waves. The wild area introduced semi-open world exploration with roaming Pokemon, dynamic weather, and multiplayer raids. Dynamaxing replaced Z-moves and Mega Evolutions, turning Pokemon into kaiju-sized versions of themselves during battles. Some loved the spectacle, others missed the strategy of earlier mechanics. Despite the uproar, Sword and Shield sold over 25 million copies, making them some of the best-selling Pokemon games ever. Expansions like Isle of Armor and Crown Tundra tried to patch the experiments, but didn't help much. Gen 8 became the era where many fans began to question whether Pokemon was still evolving or just coasting. Paldea. In 2022, Pokemon finally took the leap fans had been waiting for. Legends Arceus wasn't just a new game, it was a new blueprint. Set in a feudal era Sinnoh, it rewrote the formula entirely. Real-time catching, open environments, no random battles. You could sneak, dodge, and throw Pokeballs without ever entering a menu. The game felt raw but refreshing. Then came Scarlet and Violet, and the open world concept went full scale. 3 separate storylines, no set path. You could explore Paldea however you wanted. It was the freedom fans had dreamed of for years, but it came at a cost. Scarlet and Violet launched in a shockingly unfinished state. Bugs, crashes, frame rate drops, it was all there. Yet despite the technical issues, the gameplay loop was addicting, the world was charming, and the fanbase stuck around. The open world era proved that even a messy Pokemon game could capture lightning in a bottle. It was a sign that the franchise was finally evolving, but still struggling to balance ambition with execution. What's next? As Pokemon approaches its 30th anniversary, the future feels both exciting and uncertain. Gen 10 is inevitable, but expectations have never been higher. After Legends Arceus and Scarlet and Violet, fans want polish and innovation. Will we see a refined, open-world masterpiece or another rushed launch? There's talk of a new engine, rumors of a Switch successor, and speculation that Game Freak may take more development time than usual. Meanwhile, the franchise is expanding in other directions. Pokemon Sleep, Unite, and collaborations with brands and mobile games keep the name everywhere. Longtime fans want deeper stories and smarter AI. Newer players just want more freedom and spectacle. And the company behind it all, the Pokemon Company, has to balance nostalgia, global marketing, and yearly merchandise deadlines. One thing's for sure, Pokemon isn't slowing down. Whether it reinvents itself again or stumbles under its own weight, every new era brings surprises. And Gen 10 might just be the one that decides where Pokemon goes for the next decade. Thanks for watching, subscribe for more.